I had just started my second year of teaching. I was finishing up for the day, and I went over to check my email one last time, and I saw I had a new one. My heart sank a little bit. It was from a parent. Those still make you nervous your second year. And I clicked it open, and my heart sank even deeper. My son is being bullied and harassed in your classroom for his perceived sexual orientation. I immediately flashed back to my 5th grade year, and the first time I was called a faggot. I didn't know what the word meant back then. I thought that it was just another word like a butthead, something you just called someone to be mean. I didn't realize how scarring that word would become in middle school and high school. I went back to the email and I was like, I have to reply to this email right now. I can't be like, it's after 3:30, I'll reply tomorrow. And so I wrote the only thing I knew what to say. I'm gonna fix this. I went home that night and I was like, wait, what did I say I was gonna do? And I was like, what? And so I started thinking, well, National Coming Out Day, here's in a couple of days. Maybe I can do something for that. And so I called a couple of my friends, and then I bounced the idea of coming out to my students off of them. And one of my friends was really afraid that I might lose my job. Another friend said, what are parents going to think? What are they going to say? And my biggest fear was, what if I actually made things worse? And so I started thinking, well, maybe I can do this. Let's figure something out. And I started thinking about the techniques I use in my classroom. And every single day when my students walk in, I have 2 questions on the board. The first question is a question about what we learned in the class before. And the second question is just a question about them. It's one of the ways that I really try to build classroom community. Early in the year, it's questions like, what is your favorite color? Or what is an animal that represents your personality? And so the question I chose for this day was, tell me about a time when you felt judged for the way you looked, acted, or actually were. And as I tossed and turned that night, I finally fell asleep, and as I woke up that morning, I still didn't know what I was going to do. I walked into my first class of the day, and the question was on the board. My students hurriedly ran in, and they started writing. There was a timer, of course. And as the timer went off, I felt my heart kind of skip a beat. I didn't really know what was going to happen still. And so I saw hands go up of students who wanted to share. I never made them share, but they always kind of wanted to. And so a student raised her hand from the back of the room, and she said, well, when my friends and I go shopping, security follows us around the entire time because they think we're going to steal. Another kid, he raises his hand, and he goes, whenever I get on the metro, women pull their purses closer to them because they think that I'm going to steal. Another girl, she goes, I'm the fattest girl in my ballet class, and all the other girls make fun of me. I was humbled by their honesty. And so I took a deep breath, and I sat down on my desk. I said, let me tell you about a time when I felt judged. I said, when I came out to my family, and I told my mom and my dad that I was gay, my mom was amazing. And judgment can be good sometimes. My mom was amazing, and she said, you know what, I love you no matter what, I don't care. My dad was quite the opposite. And the room was silent. No, I was like, I didn't know what to say. And I was waiting for them, I was like, anyone? And so finally anybody have any questions? And there were none. And so we moved on with the lesson. As I filed out, I was like, was that a failure? I was like, I have 4 more classes over the next 2 days. And as the next class came in and they started working, I saw that student who was being bullied in my room. And that's when I knew that I had to keep the ball rolling. After I told that class, they all started clapping, and it was one of the most meaningful experiences of my entire life. To have a classroom of 13 and 14 and 15-year-old students who are clapping because of something you did. And I looked at that student, and he was actually in tears. And so that class left, and I didn't really know what was going on. And I told the next 2 classes over the next couple of days, and I got to my last class, and it was my worst class. We have favorites and we have least favorites, and I hated that class. I was like, do I have to tell them? And so I told that class, and my toughest kid in the back of the room raised his hand when I asked if anyone had questions. And I was like, yes. And he goes, Mr. O, it's okay. We don't care, we still love you. And so over the next week or so, the classroom dynamic kind of changed a little bit. We got closer as a community. And that student who was being bullied, he started coming to chat with me at lunch. Over the next week or two, he actually ended up coming out to me. And then he came out to his mom, and his mom was so supportive. And a couple weeks later, he told a couple of his really close friends. It wasn't until February that he runs into my room, and he said, Mr. L, look at my Facebook. I was like, oh no, what happened? And there it was, he had come out to all of his friends via Facebook. And I got a little nervous, and I looked below, and there were over 100 likes, and there were tens of comments of praising him for his courage and how awesome he was. That's when I realized he couldn't be the only one. In a school with over 1,700 students, there must be others out there who were hurting, who were suffering, who were feeling alone, who were being bullied, who were being harassed. And so with the help of many students, and including that student who was being bullied, and his mom, and many other volunteers, Wilson hosted the city's first ever high school Pride Day. And as I stood in the middle of the room with rainbow tables everywhere, there were thousands of students, well, over 1,000, we have 1,700, but we have over 1,000 students who were participating and going to the tables and talking to the people. I saw students over here who were buying Wilson buttons that were in rainbow and said Wilson Pride. There were students over here who were buying bracelets to show that they were an ally for their friends. And spread throughout, there were all these students signing these petitions, pledging to be accepting of each other, regardless of their sexual orientation or gender expression or identity. And so at the end, I walked over and I started to staple the pledges together. The idea was to make a chain, kind of like you make in elementary school, and hang it in classrooms. And so as I was making the chain, I got stuck on one name. It was the name of that bully. He had signed the pledge too. And that's when I knew it was all worth it.